Shout out to Cats Pod.
1 second. A great defensive play for Montana State.
Touchdown, Tommy Malott is electrifying.
Welcome to the Cats Pod. What's up, Podcats? We are back at it again. At long last, we have returned. I know everybody's been waiting for us, just questions every single day, right, Eric? When people are like, when are you going to be back? When are you going to be back? Yeah. Everybody cares so much. As always, I'm joined by my illustrious co-host, Eric Lauver, the second biggest fan of the Juice Squad. How you doing, Eric?
Doing good, man. It's good to be back. It took a little while to get over the events of January and the loss of our beloved Tommy Malott, but I think we're here. And honestly, seeing all these pictures and videos of all these camps the Bobcat players are putting on is really getting me hyped up for the football season, if we're being totally honest. Like, just seeing how far and above these guys are going for the youth and the communities that they're from.
Yeah.
Maybe it's happened before, but I'm not sure I remember it on a level quite like this.
Yeah, it does seem like the success that the team has had has brought on just a new energy to the entire program, on the field, off the field. Like, there's just, people are excited to get out there and go to these camps. Like, I think it was Taco Dollar and Adam Jones did a camp together, right? And It looked like a ton of kids showed up for that, and they're just excited to go play with these guys that they love watching all Bobcat season, and they're excited to give back, these young dudes, which is great to see.
Yeah, and they had that camp you were talking about. There was probably 6 other guys that I saw, probably even more, behind the scenes, out there helping out and just taking part and just giving back to a community that truly appreciates these guys for what they do on the field, and definitely appreciate them for what they do off the field. It's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to watch.
Oh yeah. Just high quality dudes all over the roster. Exactly. We only recruit the best guys, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right though. You're honestly right. I mean, they've built a culture that they all get behind, and these guys, they want to be a part of the community and they want to give back, it seems like. And it's fun to watch. And, we've had a really great recruiting cycle again, and, just basically bringing in more people to fill the shoes of the guys that are going to leave and continue doing really good things for the Cats. It's a fun one. It's a fun one to watch.
We've definitely made a lot of moves to reload since the last time we talked, and especially filling in some stuff in the secondary, but we will get into that in a little bit. We have a special episode for you guys today, and this is what we're calling the Big Four preview. The 4 teams that we really care about and that we talk about most of the season. We're going to break down each one of their seasons, go through their schedules, give wins or losses, right, Eric, for each one, and then everyone can just tell us how dumb we are when we say that the Bobcats are going to be undefeated again.
hey, they tried to call us dumb last year, didn't they?
Yeah, they tried to, and we were only wrong about one game. Only wrong about one game.
One game.
Yeah. Other than that, we were perfect. You can be right 15 times. Everybody's going to remind you about the one you were wrong about. That's it.
It was a big one.
It was a big one.
When we were talking about doing this, I was just thinking to myself, it'd be cool just to go through these four teams, because there are similarities on the schedules, including, South Dakota State, Montana State play each other.
Yeah.
And Montana plays North Dakota. North Dakota also plays, I'll have to look and see which of the Dakota states, or maybe both.
Yeah.
I know Indiana State plays, I think, North Dakota State for sure, probably South Dakota State and Montana. So, there's some similarities between some of these schedules that I think is going to come into play
Mm-hmm.
late season.
Okay. Just so we have this clear starting off, okay, are we going to skip over the Montana State games that are within these other 3 schedules that we go over first, and then just do those games at the end?
Ooh, that's a good question. Hadn't thought about that.
I feel like we should skip over them and save them to the end when we talk about the Cats.
Yeah, I mean, none of these other schools really matter that much. We're just, especially North Dakota State. I mean, we're just going to blaze them real fast. Cause
they think they're a big deal because they've won like 1 million championships or something, you know?
Yeah, but all that matters is the next one, right?
Yeah, the next one. That's all that matters. Yep. Doesn't matter what you've done. You know what my favorite championship is? The next one. The next one. That's all that matters. Okay, so we're going to kick this off with the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. Last year they went 12-3, 7-1 in the Missouri Valley. Their offensive yards per play was 4th, defensive yards per play 6th, projected strength of schedule 12th. Do you think their success, do you think they'll rise or fall this next season, Eric?
With what they lost in Jimmy Rogers, and I mean, the list is fairly substantial, so we won't even get in. Most people will know, quarterback left, those kind of things, but it's hard to imagine they don't take a slight step back. I still think they're going to be pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But it's hard to imagine they won't have or show a little regression, I guess, in a tough conference.
Yeah. An understandable level of regression would be expected from South Dakota State. Overall, I have a hard time thinking they're not going to hold strong for a little bit. I was reading in this Chase Mason, this most likely going to be the quarterback for South Dakota State. It looks like he's been just chomping at the bit to get on the field. The big thing was, I believe, just he hasn't passed a lot. He's had like 52 attempts. So that's really hard to jump into a starting role and then all of a sudden you're getting all the snaps. Like, I don't know how you make that transition that fast.
Chase Mason is insanely fast. I remember watching a couple of his touchdown runs, and it was a bit jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
But like you said, go from a utility guy to the guy is a big jump, and new coaching staff, a lot of new skill position players. We'll see what happens there. I mean, good player, completely different circumstances than last year.
Yeah. I think the biggest changeover that I would be keeping an eye on for this is just seeing how the new coach is going to work out.
Exactly.
Because it starts from there. Like, it's top down in the FCS, it seems like. We do have very talented players, but it seems like the coaching staffs are a lot more important than having just a bunch of talented guys on your roster. And so seeing how he will do with this South Dakota State team will be very interesting to watch early in the season. How this team comes out in those first few games, one of which comes against us, is going to be crucial for that fan base to get behind them. And the really good thing is they have a lot of people coming back on defense. Their defense is probably still going to be very, very solid.
Yeah. I think their defense will be really good. The crazy thing is that we're going to know right away on South Dakota State.
Mm-hmm.
They get Sac State and us immediately.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a good benchmark for where they're at. Sac State has a ton of hype.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a heck of a way to start the season is, Sac State has the big fancy coach and what did they get, 50 or something like that transfers in?
Yeah, some ridiculous amount. Such a hard team to know what they're going to be like at all.
Yeah, Sac State. What a bunch of sellouts, by the
way. You're going after them.
Forever.
Oh. They decided that they didn't like anybody on the team. They walked into the locker room this offseason and went, "We're cutting all of you. We're filling you up with transfers."
And then they're too good for the Big Sky Conference. They're going to be independent now.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool guy. Couldn't make it FBS, so your temper tantrum is to just leave the Big Sky.
Just move up to FBS. Just find somebody that's willing to take you. There's got to be somebody out there that's willing to take you, just so we don't have to deal with you.
When you're Suck State, you don't get picked up.
You don't get picked
you're
up.
Not that good.
Yeah. Turns out they're dropping down. Division II football.
Yeah.
All
anyway,
right. Yeah. We want to. You go for it.
Sac State first game. What a way to open up.
Yeah. Playing against Sac State in Brookings. Sacramento State must be feeling these transfers. They must think that they have something special coming.
Yeah, they're willing to go to Brookings and test these guys against, what should be a really good team. I don't see Sac State being very good. I know they're highly touted and a lot of big time transferred players, but
yeah,
for me it's tough to see them. It's already hard enough to get a football team to gel together. Then when you take a bunch of guys that didn't fit in elsewhere and just cram them all together.
Yeah. Just for a little bit of devil's avocado here. The only time we've seen this be successful at the FCS level that jumps out to me is South Dakota last year. That was a team that was loaded with transfers. They had transfers all over the board. I think they had one player from each of the 50 states or something ridiculous like that. And they found a way to make a serious playoff run. But I think that is the exception and not the rule. I do not think Sac State is going to be anything like that. It's probably going to be a mess this year. They're definitely rebuilding. I would definitely call this a South Dakota State win.
I agree.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure South Dakota State wins. It may not be any kind of blowout or anything, but I think it's South Dakota State win.
Okay.
On the same page, first one.
Yeah.
We can gloss over the Montana State game for now.
We'll hit that later.
Drake at South Dakota State. Think that Drake stands a chance?
I don't. I mean, Drake has made some playoff appearances, and we have been talking about all the holes within South Dakota State, but I am definitely not ready to have them lose to a team like Drake.
Yeah, non-scholarship team like Drake, even though how many times have they won their conference? It's not the same.
Yeah.
Just not the same.
It's a different level. And that's why we're doing a Big Four preview, is because just the difference between these top four teams and the rest of the FCS, it seems like there's a significant gap. And there's another gap when you're one of those teams that barely makes it into the playoffs. So I don't think Drake's going to have much of a chance.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you there. 100%. Next up's an interesting one. And once we pick it, we got to just look at Mercyhurst for a second.
Okay.
Just
we can do
understand
that.
how serious Mercyhurst is about getting into playing some of the big dogs in the FCS.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Oh, so Mercyhurst versus South Dakota State. I think this is an easy win for South Dakota State. But like you said, I respect what Mercyhurst is doing because they are giving themselves very, very tough schedules. They are trying to play against the best in the hopes of making themselves a better team. And, I mean, I can't root against the Shamrocks or whatever their mascot is. I still haven't figured out what their mascot is, Eric. That's the thing.
Don't ask me. I had no idea before, and honestly, I didn't care enough to look at very far in. But what Mercyhurst is doing right now is worth noting, only because 4 of their first 5 games are against Youngstown State, Sac State, South Dakota State, and Montana State. That's a gauntlet of.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Youngstown State is any runaway, and Sac State, I hate them, but boy, they're really jumping in the deep end this year.
Yeah, you set up that early season when you're like a heavy hitter that is trying to break their way into the top 10, top 5, something like that. And I don't think Mercyhurst is at that point or even very close to it. But the fact that they have those aspirations, I kind of like what they're trying to do at least.
I agree. Yeah, 100% agree.
They're the
Yeah,
Mercyhurst Lakers, and they actually have a website this year. Do you remember last year when we first started talking about Mercyhurst?
yeah,
They didn't even have a website. They had a website that was like 2 lines of text that was to be made. Like it was just placeholder text everywhere. Now they have a full thing. They got their mascot is Luke the Laker, so the Mercyhurst Lakers and their Shamrocks will be playing football in a lot of great towns.
Ben's just out here answering the hot questions, the burning topics.
Yep.
That's
all I'm here for. Everybody was wondering what Mercyhurst mascot is. I know.
Yeah, but regardless, that's a unanimous Mercyhurst loss there.
Yep.
Let's see. Next up, Youngstown State in Ohio.
Youngstown State in Ohio. I feel like last year Youngstown State was one of those teams that could shock one of these top teams. I feel like they played pretty decent football throughout the year. Nothing super impressive, but they could be dangerous if you caught them at the right time. That kind of team. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I feel like they were always a fringe top 25 team.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of there, kind of not. Losing to teams that, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they were just kind of good, but not that good, I guess.
Not like they're one of those I'm a year away from being a year away type of teams.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect way to put it right there. Yeah. I still think that it's not enough, though. I don't know.
Even with South Dakota State going on the road, South Dakota State does not have the easiest early season schedule. They're playing like us, Sacramento State, decent teams, and like we said, we counted Youngstown State as a good team against Mercyhurst, so we have to count them as a good team against SDSU.
Yeah.
But even with the road game, I would probably call this a win for SDSU, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that they could get upset in this situation.
Yeah, and I feel like South Dakota State's schedule up to this point is a good mix of, pretty talented teams and get-right teams.
Oh, yeah.
Even if they drop 2 at the beginning, they got 2 games to kind of roll a team over, figure, get those blips off your radar, get things figured out before they start back into their, into the Youngstown States of that division. So
yeah,
I still think that they're going to beat Youngstown State, but I do like their chances of getting things figured out if they're not gelling quite right at the beginning.
It does seem like a game where they could get lulled into something and get caught by Youngstown just because they're trying to figure things out as a coaching staff and as a team. But it's not enough of a worry for me to be able to fully give it to Youngstown State. And it is a great point. Playing Drake and Mercyhurst the week before, they are going to be fully tuned up and ready to go by the time they roll into Youngstown State.
Yeah, I agree. Next up, Northern Iowa.
Do you know much about Northern Iowa? Because I don't really know much about Northern Iowa, if I'm being real honest.
I know that they have not been good in a while. They were such a powerhouse forever. They haven't been very good. And last year, they dropped some pretty bad games.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know much about them in the offseason. I think that they might have got a new coach. I can't remember. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure Northern Iowa is one of those teams that's still kind of trying to figure out what they are anymore.
Yeah.
And I have a hard time seeing them. I don't really see that being much of a game, to be honest with you.
They haven't been relevant in so long that it's just not a team that pops up on my radar very often. I don't remember a lot of games where there was some serious upsets. If there's any Northern Iowa fans out there, they would probably correct me on that. We probably had some good games last year. They just weren't impressive enough to make it on the radar of mainly Big Sky Conference fans.
Yeah, exactly. So you take us SDSU?
Oh, yeah, I would say that's an SDSU game for sure.
Next up, Murray State. That's one I don't know much about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to have to assume that South Dakota State beats an inferior team, which I assume Murray State isn't very good.
Yeah. Murray State, isn't that where our good old friend from the Grizz was at for a year?
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Our good old quarterback friend from the University of Montana Grizzlies did have a great season for Murray State last year, but he is no longer with Murray State. And I believe he was the only piece that they had. So unless they've made some serious moves in the offseason, this will probably be a fairly easy game for South Dakota State.
Yeah, I agree. North Dakota State is next.
North Dakota State is next. Is this the marker game?
This is the Dakota marker.
This is the Dakota marker.
And you already know I'm picking South Dakota State purely out of principle.
Just out of spite. You're saying, I don't care you lost your coach. I don't care that you lost 15 players in the transfer portal. Mark Gronowski, who you're coming back and you're taking back the marker in Brookings.
That is exactly what I'm saying. I don't care what anyone says about North Dakota State. That these rivalry games are so hit and miss.
Yeah.
I mean, we see it in Cat Grizz all the time. The home team is usually the victor.
Yeah.
Won't be that way this year, but it generally is how it's been. And I feel like this is going to be the same thing. The Jackrabbits lost a lot. At this point this season, it doesn't even matter if they lose all the games before this.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to play their best game against North Dakota State purely out of principle, and I will 100% back South Dakota State on that.
I mean, the way we are picking this right now, South Dakota State would be rolling in on a 5-game winning streak. You know, playing really good football. They probably are pretty dialed in by that point. With every team in this Big Four being such a mystery, it's hard to talk definitively about any of this.
That's true.
There's been so much movement on all 4 of these teams that we're talking about today. But once again, I have to agree with you because they got the home field advantage. They brought in a lot of talent. A lot of their defense stayed there. And if anything, I see North Dakota State having some trouble on the offensive side of the ball this year, trying to fill in for Cam Miller, losing Shamar Brown. I just really see struggles on both sides, and South Dakota State being at home could be the difference there. So I would go on a dub for the Jackrabbits.
Hey, if I wasn't picking South Dakota State purely out of principle, you would have sold me on them anyway.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear it, Eric. Glad to hear I still got something.
Yeah, you got it. You're on it tonight, man.
Yeah.
You're on your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we got Indiana State. Now, if I remember right, Indiana State did have some pretty close games last year. I feel like they were kind of on the cusp of something.
Oh, yeah.
I could be wrong. Totally shooting from the hip right now.
Yeah. This is what happens when you haven't really talked about it for a couple of months, and then you just hop right back in one day. Like, hey, we're going to do this thing. Thanks, Bobcats, for putting up with it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like Indiana State had some good games, but it's still South Dakota State. They still have another level of talent in that conference.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to pick them.
There's a lot of teams on this schedule that I know way more for. There's a couple teams on this schedule I know way more for basketball than for football. And Indiana State is definitely one of those. You know, the good old Sycamores. I don't really think they're going to have a chance in Brookings. Also, how do you get this many home games in a season? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. How
is South Dakota State at home like every single week? You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 home games and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. It's a pretty nice schedule.
That is pretty nice schedule.
Pretty nice scheduling. Sycamore's getting chopped down in Brookings, South Dakota. That's what I'm calling it.
Agreed. 100%.
Yep.
The next one will be one that we will have circled to watch personally.
Oh, yeah. Especially late in the season.
This is probably my get-you game for South Dakota State right here.
Yeah.
South South Dakota's good, and they're bringing back a ton.
Mm-hmm.
Almost their entire team is returning. They lost a few really good players, but I'm pretty sure that quarterback's coming back, and he was pretty darn good. And yeah, I think and this is in Vermilion.
Yeah,
I think South Dakota could get them here.
yeah. South Dakota having probably their most successful season of all time. Do you think that's fair to say? Last year.
If that wasn't one of their best, it probably. I mean, if it wasn't top 5, it's probably their best. I'm not familiar enough to know for sure, but yeah, I think that had to been pretty close to their best one.
Best season in recent memory, at least. Like I said before, the transfer portal has been alive for South Dakota. They've been very successful in the transfer portal, and if you know how to pick players, you know how to pick players. So I feel like they're going to pick up some more players. There's going to be some more surprises out of South Dakota, and I'm right there with you saying that this would be a loss for South Dakota State.
Yeah, I think that's your get you game right there for them. It seems like the most likely one for them to lose, but time will tell, I guess.
Yeah, that weird dome in Vermilion, South Dakota.
Yeah,
I think I watched an actual game on that field for the first time last year, and I was like, this is one of the oddest places in sports. Not quite as weird as Idaho's field, but still a weird place. It seems like it's a high school gym that they just put a bigger roof on. It's like, I can't explain this.
Yeah. Let's see. And last game of the regular season is in Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Oh, I think we skipped over Illinois State.
Oh, maybe I did that on purpose.
Oh, did you do that on purpose? Is that just okay? We're just skipping right over Illinois State.
We're just gonna chalk that one up as an immediate win.
Immediate win. You can't do the Salukis dirty like that.
Are they the Salukis?
I don't know. I'm so lost right now.
No,
in this situation.
Illinois. I think Northern Illinois is the Salukis.
Okay, not Illinois State.
Like the Cardinals, which I think.
Oh yeah, they are. Getting the Illinois mixed up.
I think they were a playoff team last year, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Which could be a really good game, but I kind of doubt it. We'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. They are Reggie Redbird, the mascot of Illinois State. This is the podcast you come to if you're just trying to figure out who the mascot is of all these different teams. That's the only insight you're getting today. I think you're right. It's probably pretty fair to call this a win for South Dakota State. They're going to be coming off this South Dakota loss, this fictional South Dakota loss that we just made up, and they're going to want a get-right game back at home for the 7th time this year.
Yeah, I agree. That it seems like a good time for a get-right game right before they do go to Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
That I do think that North Dakota game at the very, very last game of the season will be a really good one.
Yeah.
North Dakota seems to have kind of figured out a way to just be a pretty darn good team year in and year out at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, they had some pretty quality wins last year.
Mm-hmm.
Really quality wins last year. They beat the pants off the Grizzlies in a pretty epic game.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season, and I don't know. That one's probably one of the tougher ones for me to pick, honestly.
Definitely. It's just so hard to tell what North Dakota is going to be. Last year at the beginning of the season, everyone, including ourselves, was super high on UND. We thought that they had really figured it out. They had this exciting young quarterback. They had won some really serious games against what we considered really serious teams. And then they just didn't have the staying power. So it's hard to go back to the well. When it's already ran dry, I can't just go back and be like, okay, now I'm going to think that North Dakota is the dark horse again. And I'm probably going to convince myself of that within the next month.
I know last year I remember North Dakota when they beat the Grizzlies, and it was like, oh my gosh, they're legit. And then that loss for the Grizzlies aged so poorly all season long. It just seemed worse and worse every week.
Yeah.
I think North Dakota lost to like an Indiana State or something like that.
They dropped some bad games towards the end of the season.
Yeah. So, well, that's that. I mean, we're both picking North Dakota as a win for South Dakota State, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we agreed unanimously all the way through.
All the way through. Lots of wins. Lots of dubs.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that's the way a lot of this is going to go.
So what's that, 12 games?
That was 12 games. Yep, 12 games. One loss that we've given you right now, and then we're waiting to talk about that Montana State game. So tentatively 11-1. I don't know how we're going to pick that other game. No way of knowing.
Yeah.
But I think that's fair with this team. Even with what they lost, they have the championship culture in place. So I think I would feel safe that they are going to be still one of the top contenders for a national championship.
I could realistically see double-digit wins for SDSU.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They could drop one of these random games. We talked a little bit about Youngstown State. That could be one that they drop. North Dakota, you don't know what they're going to be like. But outside of those two games, it seems pretty safe for them.
It does. It's really not a bad schedule.
No, it seems a little bit easy, you might say. A little bit easy. But they are 12th in projected strength of schedule, but the Bobcats are doing a lot of heavy lifting in that number.
Yes. Yes, very much so. And North Dakota State too. But it is funny that South Dakota State has an easier or a stronger strength of schedule than North Dakota State.
Yeah. That does say a lot. I mean, I don't know if it says too much, but it's always tough to talk about these schedules being built because they're built so far in advance. Like, your athletic director doesn't really have any idea what's going to be happening, or they're just guessing of what the team's going to be like and what teams you should be playing in 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, very fair.
Yeah.
Very fair.
Ready to move to your favorite team in the entire United States?
Puke in my mouth.
Okay. North Dakota State, the Bison, finished 2024 14-2, won the national championship 7-1 in the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Offensive yards per play was 11th, defensive yards per play was 59th. Projected strength of schedule, as Eric mentioned, 17th. So a slightly weaker schedule than their rivals in Brookings, South Dakota. For key returners, it's really just all about Bryce Lance with North Dakota State, right? They lost everybody else.
Yeah, Bryce Lance, pretty impressive. They got him back. Not sure whose pockets they got the money out of to keep him around. Yeah. But I'm guessing after this season, he's going to regret it.
I heard they were shaking down small children for their lunch money on the street in order to get Bryce Lance to stay.
It does seem likely. It doesn't. They'll do whatever they have to do to get these guys to stick around. They always have, which is incredibly annoying. But like you mentioned earlier, huge losses in Cam Miller and Shamar Brown. That's especially when it seemed like Shamar Brown was going to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, and I mean, that's not the only guys they lost either. I think they lost a defensive lineman that was really good too. Don't have that in front of me, so don't quote me on it. But there's some pretty big losses to go along with this team, but a lot of really good returning players, and I guess it's good that they decided to schedule themselves an easy run here. So
yeah, I mean, the defensive side, a lot of these guys are returning, and they are going to be the same North Dakota State on defense. They're going to be a very tough team to play against. They're going to be heavy in the trenches. They're probably going to have a great offensive and defensive line. So they're still going to be a highly successful team. I don't think anybody's saying that. their returning running back, whose name is not Shamar Brown. I know this is one of the names that Eric's going to make me try to pronounce. So
yes.
that is Barika Penu, and I apologize to your family and whoever I may have offended for pronouncing your name that way. But, I mean, 132 carries, 725 yards last year, 5.5 yards per carry is pretty impressive. Like, it's no slouch coming in for Shamar Brown.
I mean, it's no Julius Davis, Adam Jones numbers, but it's okay.
Exactly. I mean, we can't hold everybody to that highest standard. Not everyone can be the Juice Squad, but you can be like the Capri Sun Squad. You know,
Yes.
You could be like the Danimals Squad. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm just kind of glancing through the schedule right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that good of a schedule.
No, not really. There's
much better. It's much better laid out, which I know there's not a lot of things they can do there, but I mean the first 3 games they have are really nobody.
It's stuff we can barely even talk about. We got the Citadel that they play first off.
Yeah. I mean, that's obviously going to be a win.
Yeah.
There's nothing even to talk about there, really.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, you have Tennessee State, which is that Eddie George's squad?
Yes.
So, not a bad team.
No. This is possibly, outside of conference play, the only somewhat challenging game that they have, as long as Eddie George is still with Tennessee State, which I'm not sure of, but I would guess so.
I think he is, and I still think we're talking about a whole different level of competition here. I mean, Tennessee State, they could maybe give them a run because it is in Nashville, and I'm sure they're probably playing outside, and it could be miserable outside at that time in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So
I just looked it up. Sorry, Eric, but Tennessee State no longer has Eddie George. Their head coach is Reggie Barlow.
Okay, well, there's a win, another win.
You don't have Eddie George, Tennessee State, sorry, you're done. I hope that everyone has a good time in Nashville. All those great NDSU fans, I hope you guys enjoy your time in Nashville.
But look at this, NDSU scheduling cupcakes. Imagine that. Anybody
surprised? Nope.
Next up, we got Southeast Missouri State.
First home game of the year.
I mean, I don't know anything about Southeast Missouri State, which isn't a good thing for Southeast Missouri State, probably.
Yeah.
Probably means they're going to lose this game by probably a lot.
If they were very solid, we probably would have heard about them at some point, which I don't believe I've heard anything nice said about them. Is that No, never mind. I was about to say something very dumb. They're going home. This is their first home game of the year. I think this is another easy dub for the Bison. I think that's all that really has to be said there. It's really hard for us to talk about North Dakota State winning.
It is.
It's very hard to do this. Like, this is an exercise in hurting yourself. To have to say that North Dakota State is winning over and over and over again.
It's okay because we don't have to pick them in the next game, because I honestly believe South Dakota is going to be extremely good this year.
Yeah? You're that high on South Dakota?
I am, dude. I know they lost their coach, but they have a ton of talent returning to that team. I think they lost their head coach, that DN that was so good. He transferred up somewhere, and they lost that. I believe that running back. Yeah. I think they lost him, but the rest. But what's that? Is it Aiden Bauman? Something Bauman.
Yeah.
That kid was a stud. And they had a lot of really good wide receivers, and they had a whole nother year of everybody gelling just a little bit more, bringing in some talent. I'm pretty high on South Dakota this year, and I really think that they could get them. The only hang up I have is that it's another home game for North Dakota State, so that may be North Dakota State's saving grace is that it's a home game, but I'm probably going to pick this as a loss, an early season loss for them.
I don't feel any strong need to go against you with that one, so we'll stick with it.
Attaboy.
Another dub.
Another dub?
No, I'm just kidding. Another loss.
Let's see. Illinois State. Yeah. I mean, we talked about Illinois State and how we didn't know anything about them.
Yeah.
Ben thought they were the Salukis.
Yeah. Big idiot Ben. Thought they were the Salukis, you know. He's going to have to quit podcasting now.
Yeah. You're going with a win?
Yeah.
Also?
Definitely a win. Also, Illinois State plays in Normal, Illinois. How could this team with their generic-ass red bird logo get any more boring than being from Normal, Illinois?
I'm glad you brought that up because it's a super fair thing that we should probably discuss. This may have just become Ben's new favorite team, other than, not like, of course, the Bobcats, but you know how he's been on this thing with the Northern Colorado?
Yeah.
Well, how about a team from Normal, Illinois?
You think that Illinois State's the new Northern Colorado? It might have to be.
I mean, I think they're better than Northern Colorado, so I mean, that kind of kills the gig there. But I mean, there's so many jokes that you can come up with for a team from Normal, Colorado.
Normal Illinois. Reggie the Redbird, the mascot over there. I got a lot of things to cheer for when it comes to Illinois State. So the boys from Normal might be getting another fan, another fake half-hearted fan.
Next up, Southern Illinois. Anything earth-shattering here?
No, except for this is actually the Salukis, right?
No, I think that's Northern Illinois. I don't know who Southern Illinois is.
No, Southern Illinois is the Salukis. Come on.
No,
I'm looking at their website right now, Eric. Come on. It's the dog. It's the dog. The Southern Illinois Salukis. Yep.
What is Northern Illinois?
I don't know. Northern Illinois, nobody cares about it. If it's north of Normal, we don't care about it.
Oh, okay.
Anything north of Normal.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, last year the Salukis seemed like a team that.
Oh, okay. Northern Illinois.
Well.
The Huskies. Okay.
Okay.
My bad. Same thing, right? Same.
All these schools in Illinois, they're really throwing us for a loop.
Yeah. Why do they all have to be dog? Well, you have two dogs and one red bird.
One generic bird.
Yeah.
One bird and two bird dogs.
You taking Southern Illinois?
No, I don't think I'm taking Southern Illinois in this. The Salukis have been respectable the last few years. I'll put it that way.
Yes.
They are not a bad team by far. They seem to be very reliant on a couple of very talented players that happen to pop out of nowhere, or at least we don't have any kind of knowledge of before the season starts. But they always seem like a fairly tough team. I definitely don't think they're going to be capable of winning in Fargo.
No, I don't think so.
I think it's pretty safe.
Yeah. Indiana State, we kind of discussed them a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it. I don't see them. I don't see a path for them.
Yeah. They're just not ready for it. It's too high a level. They're too far away from the top 4 pack to be able to make a serious run at them.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. And next up, the Dakota Marker. And you made a fantastic case for South Dakota State here, and I can't wait to see that come true. I just can't.
Yeah.
That's a big old L for NDSU to drop them to 2 losses.
Yep.
Week
We
8.
picked it. It's going to be a defensive battle. North Dakota State's offense is going to be not as ready as South Dakota State's offense at that point. Unless now I have to argue against myself, since you said I made a good point. Now I have to argue against it. If Bryce Lance can throw the ball and catch the ball, then North Dakota State will win that game.
Yeah, if Bryce Lance can just play 22 different positions, they'll be golden.
Exactly. They won't have any worries. They'll just win the national championship next year.
Now that we're halfway through their schedule here, I do think it is worth bringing up something that you brought up earlier in regards to South Dakota State having a quarterback that hasn't had the full reins.
Mm-hmm.
North Dakota State's quarterback sure as heck hasn't either. I mean, he was hurt half of last year.
Yeah.
Generally a running threat, a pound the ball kind of guy with some breakaway speed.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to be somewhat in the same boat as South Dakota State here. I mean, we'll see what happens, but that's going to be a fun game, a really fun game.
It's kind of crazy as we're breaking down these big four teams for us. At least 3 out of the 4 are going to primarily be running the football.
Yep.
For a majority of the season. And I have to think the Bobcats have been playing this run-heavy game and owning it for 5 years now, correct?
Yep.
Are they going to be able – can South Dakota State and North Dakota State beat Montana State at the game that they've perfected? I don't see it.
I don't either.
I don't see it.
I agree. 100%. I agree. Yeah. Next game is Youngstown State. I feel like same argument as South Dakota State.
A year away from being a year away.
Yep. Then North Dakota.
I wanna call this a trap game so bad.
I do too.
Late in the season, you know there's going to be a couple injuries at this point. And they're in Grand Forks, somewhat rivalry game. These North Dakota fans have a chip on their shoulder about North Dakota State, so when they come into town, there's probably a lot of chippiness there.
I didn't want to be the first one to call this a trap game because everyone already just thinks that I live my life hating North Dakota State, which is true. But you said it first.
I said I'm having a really hard time not calling it a trap game. So technically, I did not call it a trap game.
Okay, well, I'm gonna call it a trap.
Okay. But in all actuality, if you were legitimately, logically picking this game, do you really think that North Dakota is going to beat North Dakota State?
I really doubt it. Yeah. I mean, unless they come in and just totally fumble the bag. I mean, at that point, they already have South Dakota State that are very losable games for them.
Yeah.
As much as I hate to say it, North Dakota State having 3 losable games in a regular season, doesn't seem likely. No. So, yeah, if you're picking with your brain, then you probably have to pick North Dakota State. Shoot me now.
I had to do it.
Threw up in my mouth a little bit, but
it's tough out here if you're a lover,
Yeah. All right, let's get past that. Let's just get past that real quick.
And this is kind of a season that it seems like we can kind of round off at the end here.
Yeah. Yeah. We finish off with Northern Iowa. Already discussed that Northern Iowa isn't very good. Hasn't been very good. Probably going to be a fairly, I would imagine, good blowout win for North Dakota State.
Yeah.
And the last one, St. Thomas.
St. Thomas.
I feel like any team with Saint in their name is probably not very good at football.
Yeah. You're usually, if you see the ST after the first, if the ST is at the end and not at the beginning, generally a much better team. I think this is a game where they're just playing against St. Thomas, like the actual Saint. So definitely big L for North Dakota State here. You can't beat a Saint. They got the power of God behind them.
So another 12 games here.
Mm-hmm.
North Dakota State only gets 6 home games.
6 home games. And also, I did scroll past to see if I was being a total hypocrite. Montana State also has 7 home games this year.
Yeah, but the Grizzlies have 8.
Okay. So we're not the worst.
No. So that puts an agreement with both of us a 10-2 record.
10-2 record. So essentially the same as their record last year. They had a 2-loss season last year. We believe they're going to stay on the same level. God, the more we talk about these teams, just the more excited I get for the absolute dogfight that the playoffs is going to be. Because there's a lot of unknowns going into the season, and I just feel like those are going to continue throughout the season, and we're going to enter the playoffs like, I don't know who's going to win this thing.
Yeah, I agree. Now we get the really gross one.
Even worse, this is a hard episode for you, Eric. I'm sorry. This episode was also Eric's idea. I want to tell everyone that. It was his idea to go through these schedules, including North Dakota State and Montana.
All right, Ben, read it off.
Okay. 2024 record for Montana, 9-5, 5-3 in the Big Sky Conference. Offensive yards per play was 33rd. Defensive yards per play, 55. Projected strength of schedule was 29th. Key returners. Ayat will be making a return. Eli Gilman is returning. Liam Brown on the offensive line. Those are the big names that we are going to be seeing and hearing from. Once again, Montana is just going to have the question around, when are they going to actually play Ayat? Are they going to, or is there another quarterback that they're just going to play ahead of him?
I mean, I feel like breaking down this Grizzly team deserves its own episode.
Yeah.
So we probably could, if we get into this and all the things that this team has done, abandoning Montana recruits, hitting the transfer portal almost entirely, essentially building a team without with very, very few true Montana kids on the starting roster. I think 27 transfers or something like that?
They do have a lot of notable additions.
We can take a whole episode talking smack about the Grizzlies and what they're doing, because honestly, it's at this point it's deserved.
Yeah. And I think we might have to have a Brad preseason episode in order to fully dive into the Grizz.
I mean, just the most notable thing is this projected strength of schedule, and you look at the schedule, that 29 makes sense. I mean, we're talking, just at a quick glimpse here, we're talking about a North Dakota, Central Washington, North Dakota, Indiana State, Cal Poly, Sacred Heart, Eastern Washington, Portland State. Those are all joke games.
Yeah.
No crap games. Those are all trash teams. Like the bottom of the barrel. The only one they're missing is Northern Colorado.
Hey, don't talk about my boys like that.
I mean, this is a joke of a schedule.
It really is. It's tough. The big question I was trying to ask myself as I was reading through, we've been reading through all these teams' records, like some of their stats from last year, strength of schedule, stuff like that. The big question for me is, does Montana even belong in a Big Four conversation right now?
I couldn't agree more.
The only thing that puts them there is maybe how many transfers they got from big schools, because we don't know what those players are going to be.
No, and I mentioned it earlier. When you take a hodgepodge of kids that are they weren't happy where they were before, or whatever reason that they transfer, and you try to mesh all these people together, they didn't grow together.
Yeah.
And that's the whole beauty of what the Bobcats are doing. I know we're talking about their schedule right now, but I mean, cohesiveness in the locker room is a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
A really big deal.
That's why you need the steady hand of somebody like Vegan to run your team. Because that consistency year over year is why the majority of the players we're going to talk about when the Bobcats come up are players that we know, that have been around for a while. There's a couple transfers that we got to talk about, but for the most part, it's players that have been rising up in the program. They got a lot of playing time last year when we were blowing teams out.
Yep, exactly. 100% agree with you. I mean, their first game, Central Washington. I mean, are they even an FCS school?
I don't know. I'll do some quick half-ass internet research for you.
I'm just gonna go ahead and mark us down both for a W on this one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. I get starting your season off with a cupcake. I get that. You want a get right game.
Yeah.
They don't play in their first game isn't until September 6th. It looks like they bypass them. They're taking their bye week the first week of the season.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, Central Washington is a nobody. It does you nothing in a schedule. Does you no good when it comes time for playoff seeding and everything.
Yeah. It's not a team that we have to worry about at all. It's not a team we're going to talk about outside of just this one episode. They are Division 2.
Yeah.
They're in the GNAC.
Yeah, they're a nobody. Will never understand that. I'm very glad that none of the other teams that we're going to talk about today have done that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Next up they got North Dakota. Yeah. Now, can we call this a trap game?
I don't think it's a trap game when the two teams are evenly matched.
That's fair. That is fair. It is at Washington Grizzly, which gives them the Mecca blah blah blah. But
Can you give me a blah 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 one more time?
Can you tell that I have like Hotel Transylvania?
Yeah, I can just a little bit. There is a little bit of Adam Sandler in there.
You pick this one first.
Okay. I am having a hard time with this game. The only thing that scares me about the Grizzlies going into this season is all of the unknowns from these transfer players. Jake Jensen, the quarterback out of USC. What is this guy going to be like? Is he a legitimate Division I quarterback that's going to come in and take the job from IOT week 1, week 2? Is IOT even the starter at the beginning of the season? These are all the questions that we have no way of answering right now because there's just not a lot of information out there. Defensively, I think the Grizz are going to be solid. They usually grow throughout the season defensively, so early on in the season, they're probably going to drop a bunch of points to North Dakota, and it's probably going to be a close game. I would predict that it's going to be very similar to last year where the Grizz completely fell apart in that game in the second half. I think I'll call this a win I think I'll call this a loss for the Grizzlies. Early on in the season, all the changes that they've made, I think they're going to be a much better team by the end of the season, but second game of the season, I don't think they're going to have it together enough to beat North Dakota.
Yeah, and I agree with you, but I have a different reason why. Okay. Starting this season off with Central Washington isn't going to teach you anything. Yeah. Whether Ayat or this USC kid are any good at all, it doesn't even matter because they are better players than anyone Central Washington could ever sniff. Yeah. If they were playing a better team that first game, even like a crappy FBS team or something like that, or a FCS team that's like, if they had Indiana State the first game of the season, I could see them beating North Dakota. But when you walk out there and play a glorified high school team and then expect them to come out guns a-blazing for the next game, I don't see it happening. Not with a team full of transfers. Yeah. It's going to be a tough game. I agree. That's going to be a loss for UM. Okay. Next up, Indiana State.
Indiana State, the Sycamores, just playing everybody, all the big names.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Indiana State, and this is sidebar, little tangent. There are going to be quite a few direct comparisons between U of M, NDSU, and SDSU.
Oh, okay.
Because all three teams have North Dakota and Indiana State in their schedule.
Yeah. So by the transitory property of football, we will exactly know how good all those teams are.
I mean, we'll see how if University of Montana drops one of these games to one of these teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think they'll beat Indiana State, but if they don't and the other two teams blow them out, that doesn't look good.
No. That like all these games when you have common opponents and stuff like that will teach us a lot in the long run.
Yeah. And that's just for the record here. The Grizzlies have 1, 2, 3, 4 home games in a row to start the season.
Yeah.
They
What are they covering up for, Eric? What are they covering up for?
September away from us.
The entire month of September they get to stay home.
What do you think on Indiana State? They going to get them?
No, I don't think Indiana State has any chance. It's going to be a tough season for the Sycamores.
Yeah, agreed. Next up, Idaho. The enigma that is Idaho.
Yeah. And Idaho is that team where they lose everyone every single year. So I can't say that. And they always compete still at the same time. Last year, they looked like a heavy hitter early on in the season, playing with freshman and sophomore quarterbacks that nobody had heard of until the beginning of the season.
Yeah. I mean, they lost a lot, and that it's it sounds like a broken record. I mean, South Dakota State was in the same boat. They lost the head coach, lost a bunch of players. Idaho lost their head coach, lost a bunch of players, but they also got the coach they wanted, and they brought a bunch of guys in. A lot of guys once he got hired rescinded their transfer portal.
Yeah, that says a lot.
Out of it to come back and play for him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we lost a wide receiver to Idaho. We'll be watching him play the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing they're going to have the firepower to do it against the Grizzlies.
Yeah. It is you got to call it a win for the Grizz.
Yeah, I agree.
By this point, they're going to probably be more dialed in. This will be their 4th game in a row at home, like we've said multiple times already. And I don't know what the beginning of Idaho's schedule looks like, but I have a feeling it's not going to be as easy and as player-friendly as the Grizzlies' schedule.
Yep, I agree. Next up, you have the Grizzlies' first game away from Washington Grizzly Stadium at Idaho State. This could be a trap game.
Yeah, I would consider this a trap game if Idaho State could win it.
Pick it as a trap game, but Idaho State isn't the easiest place to play in.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't good last year, but they weren't terrible. They were, kind of in the middle of the pack.
Yeah.
Like if you're not careful, they could be frisky enough to get you.
Yeah.
Kind of team.
Well, I really liked Idaho State last year. I thought they were a team that if they put together a couple more wins or a couple of the close games they had that turned into losses at the end, if those were wins, they would have like a playoff resume.
Yeah.
But it definitely didn't end that way. They still didn't have enough pieces. I haven't done a lot of research or anything on Idaho State this offseason. They really aren't moving the needle for me. I'm open to my opinion changing and them being better throughout the season, but at this point, I would say this is a win for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to go boom, boom, 2 weeks in a row. Cal Poly Sacred Heart.
Dub.
I mean, you can't, there's nothing even worth talking about here.
Yeah.
If we're really honest.
Sacred Heart, another team like, who is this? Who dis? New team, who dis?
That's 2 trash teams directly in a low, both at University of Montana. Home games again. But then they go off to Sauk State.
This is interesting.
Yeah, that's the one that interests me the most probably in their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, North Dakota will be, I think, a good game. But at this point in the season, you would kind of expect Sac State to be gelling a little bit more.
Yeah,
You
you
would
would expect them to have those 50 transfers at least playing the same offense and defense at this point.
you would sure think so. I mean, I do think that's going to be their toughest challenge to this point.
Mm.
But I don't know. You
Yeah,
pick
outside
first.
outside of that North Dakota game, this is definitely the toughest one in their season so far. Sacramento State, just with all of the money that's being thrown that direction and all the players that they're bringing in, it's hard to judge much because everything is an unknown when it comes to Sacramento State. Also, the game time for this is weird. This is at 8:30 on a Friday night. So they're going to have to travel to Sacramento. They're not used to traveling much. They've only been away for one game out of their first 7 games, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, out of 8 games, they will have only played 1 on the road. I don't feel very secure about the Grizzlies in this game.
I don't either.
Dare I say I want to pick Sacramento State?
Mark it. I'll ride.
Your hatred for Sacramento State is only eclipsed by your hatred for the Grizzlies.
And North Dakota State.
And North Dakota State.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Next up, we got Weber in Ogden. Two away games in a row. But
yeah,
Weber lost some significant pieces again.
Mm-hmm.
They were okay last year. I don't see it. I know there's some talk about them being pretty good. It's hard for me to believe.
Yeah.
Every time we played Weber in the last couple of years, we've waxed them bad.
Will we potentially see another great game like we had last year between the Grizz and Weber State? Because that was the overtime game. Very exciting stuff happening the entire time. This one is at Weber State. I believe the last time Weber State beat them at home.
Yep.
I kind of want to call this another loss. I want to say back-to-back weeks on the road and back-to-back weeks Montana loses, but I'm probably going too far. I probably need to reel myself back in.
I don't think Weber State's going to be very good, if we're being totally honest. I think they're going to be a pretty subpar team. I'm going to probably give this one to the Grizzlies just because I don't have any faith in Weber State whatsoever.
They're not going to lose 2 in a row like that.
It doesn't seem likely. I hope they do.
If they lose to Sac State, they're going to be so pissed going into Weber State. There's no way that would go back-to-back losses.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It doesn't seem likely they would lose 2 in a row.
Yeah.
But then we can go bang, bang again.
Bang, bang.
We got Eastern Washington and Portland State. Both those teams are going to be bad.
Yeah. No Efton Chisholm. No Dante Sacheret, right? Both graduated. The only exciting players on both those teams are gone. We have to find new exciting players in Eastern Washington and Portland State.
The second best player at Eastern Washington transferred to the Grizzlies, Michael Wortham.
Yep.
Two pretty easy wins in a row. And if they're not, that's a bad look.
They're trying to get themselves together for that last game of the season, which we will talk about at the very end of this episode. Interesting in this one, we got 2 losses on the board for the Grizzlies. Even though it is a weak schedule, they're still coming out with a similar record to the other 2 teams that we've talked about so far this episode.
Yep. Yeah, I think looks like we got another 12-game schedule. And, I mean, I don't know. I really think North Dakota and Sac State are going to be tough games, but this is a joke of a schedule.
Yeah.
And they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 home games.
Yep.
Who do you have to pleasure to get 8 home games?
I don't know, but quite a few people.
Okay, enough talk about things that make me sick to my stomach.
Okay, let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Let's get to the fun stuff. The fun one. Read it off.
The
Read it to
crazy
me.
thing is, Eric, we're already an hour into this. This is going to be our longest episode of all time, I'm pretty sure. Finally, at long last, the team you guys have been waiting for us to talk about for an hour and 10 minutes now, Montana State. They went 15-1 last year, 8-0 in the Big Sky Conference. Offensive yards per play was second. Defensive yards per play was 29th. Projected strength of schedule, third. Very strong schedule. I don't think we're going to be hearing a lot of the same complaints as we did last year because this is as tough a schedule as they come. Returning players that matter the most. We'll say that matter the most because they all matter. All the players that return matter. But Adam Jones coming back had a killer season last year, looking to continue killing at the same time. Dual threat guy, catching and rushing. Taco Dollar coming back, Neil Daly coming back, Kenneth Iden coming back, Paul Brock coming back. All the dudes are coming back.
Paul Brock, legacy guy.
Yeah.
Julius Davis coming back.
We got a lot of pieces in a lot of different places. The defense is looking extremely solid with returning players and a lot of players that were coming off the bench last year that ended up with a lot of playing time. One of the stats I saw was that the Cats have 21 players that played over 200 snaps last year returning, which is second most in the Big Sky and would be more than any other Missouri Valley team. So we have a lot of players coming back that contributed quite a bit last year, even though we had massive losses that you can never replace.
Yeah. Our defense is going to be legit.
Yeah.
Even with the guys who graduated out, the defense is going to be extremely good. I mean, that returning player list didn't even have Bryce Greeby on it.
No. Missing him, missing Caden Dowler, missing Taki. I mean, we could go down the list. We could pretty much just name every person who's going to be a defensive starter next year, and they're all some studly dudes.
Yeah, it's going to be a special defense. I'm going to say it right now. One of the best defenses we'll see in quite some time. I have so much faith in the young corners coming up.
Yeah,
they're really, really good.
And we picked up a lot of good DBs too. We're going to have some depth there. We're going to be able to move some people around. There's going to be a lot of good competition in the secondary.
Yeah. I'm pretty excited to watch this defense. Offense, gonna have some question marks post Tommy Malott, but this is the thing.
Yeah.
We have, and this is the Bobcats schedule is the kind of schedule I like to see.
Yeah.
You have essentially an unwinnable game, number one. You get to stack yourself up against a team that finished, what did they finish last year? 2, 3?
Yeah.
3? In the FBS?
Yeah.
You get to go toe-to-toe with one of the top 5 teams in all of the FBS in your first game. The only concern that comes out of that is really hope that nobody gets hurt. But that being said, what better way to test yourself? You go out there, you try everything in the book, see what works, see what doesn't, and then take it right into South Dakota State. It's the best way to start a season that there is.
Yeah. There is a lot of big challenges in this game. You get to see how these players stack up against the best talent in college football. Some of the best talent in college football, which is always fun to watch. And you have the chance for a major upset. Like, it could happen. Because the way we're looking at this team at this point, with the questions in the quarterback room, will it be Chance Wilson? Will it be Justin Lamson? We really have no way of knowing any more than anyone else, any other fan in that situation. Just speculation. Justin Lamson looks exciting, but if anything, it would be a very run-heavy offense with Justin Lamson in there.
Yeah.
So if we control the clock against Oregon, run the ball every other play, or just run it constantly, make it a low-scoring game, who knows what could happen?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're going to Oregon. I mean, we're probably not going to win that game, and that's fine. It's an FBS team and not a low-level FBS team. This
Yeah.
is a powerhouse FBS team.
Yeah.
But
Top tier program, all the money in the world, all the Nike money. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to go against.
yeah. I mean, probably hate to say it, but I mean, starting the season off with a loss to Oregon is just something FCS teams have to do.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
And who knows? We might have an Appalachian State type of year or something like that where something crazy happens.
That being said, we get to walk that into South Dakota State, who might not quite have it figured out yet.
Yeah.
They might not.
Yep.
How do you feel about that one?
I feel a lot more confident in this South Dakota State game. I think that Montana State has a lot more consistency on their roster from last year. Between the coaching staff, a lot of players returning, a lot more experience, a lot of players that built a lot of experience last year through that playoff run and the run into the championship. I seriously think this is going to be a win for the Bobcats in Bozeman. Like, I truly believe that. I don't think that's too crazy at this point. I think the Bobcats are at the point where they deserve the respect that if they're playing at home against a team like South Dakota State, they should be considered the favorites.
Well, last time they played South Dakota State at home, they beat them. So I agree. I like this game. This could be a great game. Gold Rush is generally kind of just a drubbing.
Yeah.
This is going to be a really good game and one that I think the Bobcats will win.
Yeah. Talk about a super exciting Gold Rush.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait for it. I've never missed one, and I won't be missing that one.
Yeah.
But that is going to be a win. And we'll be walking into 3 straight weeks of
getting right. Just tightening the screws. Just tightening the screws, refining things, getting better.
That is how I like a schedule to be set up.
Yep.
You go out, you test yourself. It's early against 2 very good teams. Then you have 3 weeks of get right football.
Yep.
Figure it out. I mean, San Diego, FCS team, nothing special. They should win pretty easily. Mercyhurst, same thing. FCS team, not very good, should win easily. Eastern Washington, trash. They're going to be bad. We should have 3 wins right in a row. That at that point, the team should know their direction. I firmly.
Yeah, they should be very dialed in at that point.
Any differences?
I don't have any points to really make on any of those 3 teams. We talked about Mercyhurst and their schedule and what they're trying to accomplish there. Eastern Washington just doesn't have a whole lot to hang their hat on at this point. Maybe they'll shock us, and by the time we get to this Eastern Washington game, that may turn into a game that we are far more interested in. But preseason wise, it's just not a team that we can get excited about.
I mean, I know
bunch of wins for the Cats.
Everyone will be happy to know we don't have to watch this game on a red field.
Exactly. That is the main point here, is we don't have to watch them play in Washington.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we get into a very interesting game on the schedule then.
Yeah. A scrappy team. A scrappy team out of the Lumberjacks of Northern Arizona. We are going to Flagstaff, Arizona, to the Walk-Up Sky Dome, which we have heard is pretty stinky. We've heard from a close friend of ours that it's a pretty stinky place.
You're thinking of Northern Colorado.
Oh, damn. Mixed up my Northerns again. I think I say that every single time, so it works. But yeah, this is a game that I would call a win for the Bobcats. I don't think there's a ton of drama here, but they are a scrappy team, and they do play very hard football against everyone. So it's not going to be an easy win. I don't think this will be much of a blowout or anything, especially on the road in the elevation there. They have pretty high elevation there at that stadium, correct?
Oh, yeah, it's way up there. They have They have a definite home field advantage at Northern Arizona. And, we kind of talked previously about teams that were trying to knock on the door.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't see it being this year.
No.
And Northern Arizona is a good team. They had the Grizzlies last year. They had them. But
should have beat them last year.
Should have beat them last year. Mm-hmm. But the Grizzlies didn't have very good defense, and the Cats' defense is going to be really good.
Yeah. There's
too much depth. I mean, even if you start to factor in elevation, there's too much depth there. I mean, the Cats are gonna be able to cycle guys in, give breathers, whatever they got to do to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any other outcome than a Bobcat victory. I do think it'll be a good game, though.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one to watch for sure. Close game. Probably not a stress-free win, if I'm being real honest about it.
Probably not. No, probably not a stress-free win. But, I'll be okay with that because I'll have 3 weeks of stress-free.
Yeah. We'll be getting a little bored at that point with all the blowouts. So we'll want a close game just to remember what being a football fan is like.
Yeah. Next up, we got Idaho State. And this is a home game, and Idaho State doesn't give me any shivers when we have them at home.
No.
There's nothing there.
We already said it in when we were talking about the Grizzlies with Idaho State. They're knocking on the door. They're a program with a lot of promise. They're a scrappy program. They play a lot of close games with a lot of really good teams. They played with the Bobcats fairly close last year for a majority of that game before the Bobcats wore them down and ran away with it like they did with every other team in the Big Sky.
Yep.
But I think it's going to be more the same in that situation. They wear them down with the run game, extend the game, or shorten the game by controlling the clock, and the Bobcats will be able to control that game easily.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Idaho State they don't stand a chance in Bobcat Stadium.
Yeah.
It's just the home field advantage is too much. They're just not a good enough team to walk in and get you.
Yeah. It's not the one that's going to do it. Somebody might be the one, but it's not you, Idaho State.
Exactly. Next up, we have two bang bangs, but I'm not going to do it bang bang. I'm going to say bang Cal Poly, and then I'm going to give you Northern Colorado.
All right, so we're rolling into year 2 of North Dakota fandom, or Northern Colorado fandom. The Bears had a tough season last year. They played hard. They got their one win, which they hadn't gotten in a long time. This year, 2 wins, Eric. We're shooting for 2 wins. But one of them will not be against the Bobcats. So the Bobcats are going to win this game. Bang, bang.
Bang, bang.
Bang, bang.
Northern Colorado lost their best player, too. Their kicker transferred.
I don't know. Their punter transferred, so they're done now. Oh, they lost their kicker. It's all over. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah. Northern Colorado is a pretty easy win, I think.
Yeah, pretty easy win.
Then we get Weber State at home.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
I think the way we talked about Weber State, a lot of the same stuff applies from the Grizz schedule to the Bobcat schedule. They're not on that top tier yet. So I don't think that they are going to be able to mess with the Bobcats.
I don't think so, especially not at home. I think it'll be, you brought up something about Idaho State. They played close until the Bobcats wore them down.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that being the case in this game.
Yeah.
Weber State keeps it close for, maybe 3 quarters, and then the Cats kind of just run away with her in the 4th.
Oh, yeah. Very easily could happen. Or maybe even just the first half, and then we come out after halftime and wake up, and then all of a sudden Weber State's buried.
I mean, this is at the time. This is November 8th, this game.
Mm-hmm.
By November 8th, the offense should know their direction without a doubt.
If they haven't figured it out at this point, we are going to be freaking out.
It's not going to be a pleasant podcast if they haven't figured it out at this point.
No. So we are hoping for our own mental health that they've figured it out by this point, and they beat Weber State handily.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you look at the end of the schedule, this is a tougher end of the schedule, hence why we have a projected strength of schedule so high.
Mm-hmm.
You go, and thank goodness we have Weber State and then UC Davis the next week at home.
Yeah.
Before we go to Missoula.
Yeah. That helps out a lot. What do you think? What do you think UC Davis is going to be like this year? This is the first time today that UC Davis has come up.
I have absolutely no idea.
Damn it! I was hoping you would have an idea, Eric, because I also have no idea.
I will say this: when you lose a generational player like Land the Man,
yeah,
it's hard to recover from. Because if we're being totally honest, without Land Larison last year, they probably have an extra couple losses on their record.
Oh yeah, I think that is very safe to say.
He was so far and away their best player. I mean, they still have some really good players on that team, but they lost their quarterback.
Yeah,
they lost a generational FCS player in Land Larison. It's tough for me to believe that they're going to be where they were last year. But I think they'll be good.
Oh, yeah. They're going to be respectable, but they're just not in the tier. Same problem with a lot of these teams when we're picking against them. There's just two major levels in the FCS, and UC Davis is not part of that upper echelon.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, and yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that this won't be a win also. I mean, when you're looking at the schedule in whole, we've given them one loss for Oregon.
Yeah.
Chances are they probably drop one more. Somewhere, somehow, they probably drop one more.
Yeah, I don't see us getting lucky enough as fans to get two essentially undefeated seasons in a row.
I mean, I'm still going to take I'm going to take Bobcats beating UC Davis here.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm just saying when the Bobcats never lose again after Oregon, if they do, it was just because of nature.
Yeah.
It was just
nature.
Because the gods willed it. That's
exactly.
It.
It was the will of the gods that this would happen.
Yes. Yeah. And then finally, the team that shall not be named.
Is this the year that the flip-flopping ends? Is this the year that the home game winning streak comes to an end?
It is.
It's I want to say that it is. I want to say that it is so bad. I want to be able to confidently say, yes, the Bobcats will beat the Grizzlies on November 22nd. I want to be able to say that. I just can't because of the guys coming in from USC and the guys transferring in from all of the country. Like, I just don't know how good those guys are.
Fair point. They don't lose this game.
They don't lose this game.
There's too many guys on that team that played in a national championship last year and got their hearts broken at the very end of the season in the worst possible way.
Yeah.
If I that lost that bad, I can't even imagine how they took it.
Yeah. The chip on the shoulder has grown.
They want to get back there in the worst possible way. They're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And if they don't, it's not going to be the general trend that has been of a blowout.
Yeah. You think we could have a really close Brawl of the Wild this year? Like it could be an actually fun one?
I think for the first time in a while, I think that the Cats, if and it's a big if they were to lose, I think this is the year it's a close game.
Oh, okay. Kind of like a toss-up, anything can happen. And truly in these rivalry games, it's a cliche, we say it over and over again, but anything really could happen in these games. And there's no definitive way to pick it. You go by the numbers in these games, and most of the time you're going to be wrong. We've seen some, like just 2 years ago, we had an amazing Bobcat team that just got beaten by a Grizzly team that got hot at the right time in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Maybe the Grizz start putting it together. They could be struggling the entire beginning of the season, and then they start to put it together at the beginning of November, and then all of a sudden this is a big matchup between two of the top teams in the conference.
I mean, we talked about it earlier with the Dakota marker.
Mm-hmm.
Those rivalry games are such a crapshoot all the time.
Yeah.
You never actually know who's going to win those games.
Yeah.
Generally, home field advantage is what does it.
Mm-hmm.
Playing on foreign turf is never easy, and it's really bad when it's the Bobcat Grizzly game.
Yeah.
Because it is one of the hottest, matchups in all of sports, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, Cat Grizz will always be a crapshoot forever.
Yeah.
Never change.
Random stuff can happen.
I'm saying it. We're going to win in Missoula this year.
We're going to end the streak. It is time. The time is now.
The Cats are going to drop one in Oregon and then win the rest.
Win the rest. I bet everyone is so surprised to hear us pick it that way too. To the surprise of absolutely no one, we picked them to lose against Oregon and then win every other game all season.
Yeah. And, since we're saying that, they're going to keep it close against Oregon. It's going to be unanimous, 1 seed.
Yeah, exactly.
The playoffs come through Bozeman.
I would love to see it. I'm excited for it. I'm having a hard time not letting the press clippings get to my head when I see all these Big Sky Conference previews come out, and every single one of them has Montana State at the top. I'm like, we're not supposed to be acknowledged this way. We're supposed to be the underdogs. We're supposed to be disrespected all the time. Now we're receiving the proper amount of respect, and I don't know how to deal with it, Eric. Can't do it.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. We picked win-losses for the 4 big teams in the FCS.
The 4 teams that matter to the Podcats and the Cats Pod.
Yep. And it is going to be a fun season, I think. A real fun one. We had to give them a really long episode because we haven't recorded in a couple months.
Yeah. We'll see how many people actually listen this far. If you have listened this far, you are a true G, and you are really one of the Podcats, and we appreciate you so much. We will be rolling out a few more episodes as we get ready for the season. Is there anything else you wanted to throw in before we let everybody go, Eric?
Well, if anybody disagrees with anything that we say, let us know. Okay. We will.
Also, if you have any just questions in general, just throw them out there. We would love to hear it. Thanks, everybody, for listening. You can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Go ahead and follow us wherever they're at and rate us 5 stars wherever you are listening to this at. We will catch you on the next episode. Have a good one, everybody.
Adios.